Sewing and Crafting family. I'm Angela Wolf, Brother Brand Ambassador, and we are at your side virtually. If you've never been here before, say hi, say where you're from. We have had some fabulous episodes. If you want to binge watch, you can spend weeks going through the past videos, but we always come up with something new and exciting for you. So we are live streaming on Brother Sewing and Crafting Facebook and YouTube page. So be sure to leave your comments. Now, we're actually doing this one a little bit different because I'm on a boat and I wasn't sure that all of you would want to be there and kind of get seasick. So Tina and I are pre-recording this, but we are commenting in the comments. So be sure to see your comments. And if you see us commenting down there this time, instead of bringing your comments up, that's the big difference. So welcome to the party. And we have a fabulous brother educator today. Tina has had the coolest projects and you might've seen her last episode. Wait till you see what she's got coming on now. So let's bring Tina to the party. Hi, Tina.
Hey, Angela, how are you?
Good. So, oh my gosh, I love the quilts behind you.
Oh, thank you. It's so fun quilting, and these machines make it so easy too. Did you
make? I'm looking at that one. Does that have a bee on it?
It does. The big bee is from the embroidery design site, and the text is on the machines, and the stipple and quilting all on the machines.
Oh my gosh, that's cute. So Tina, in case anyone has not met you before, could you just tell them a little bit about where you're from, how long you've been with Brother? What's your favorite sewing or embroidery project?
Oh my gosh. Well, I am in Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, and I've been with Brother since the first of the year, which I'm super excited. I love Brother. I have so many Brother machines. It was either be an educator or open my own warehouse. And in terms of favorite functions, it's so hard. But, you know, these machines with some of the camera technologies make placement and designing so easy. I just don't know how I would live without the camera functions on the machines anymore, Angela.
I love the part where you're gonna have to open your own warehouse. That's kind of my problem with fabric. I totally get it. Oh, so Tina, I'm really excited about what you're going to show today because you said it only needs a couple of supplies, which everyone's going to love that, and they might even have this in their stash.
Yeah, I thought I'd show a variety of quilting techniques all on the PR1055X. And literally all you need in addition to your machine is some thread, fabric, and batting, and we are off to the races.
That's awesome. So I know a lot of you have different machines from all ranges of Brother, but if you have my design center, you'll be able to follow along with, if not all, most of this. I know they've made a few upgrades with my design center, but this is definitely a my design center thing. So don't worry, if you don't have the 10 needle, you can still follow along and get great ideas.
Perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go over to the machine really quickly. All right. So the first thing, you know, I get asked a lot of questions when I'm out and about on how, you know, people can use designs on their machines and add quilting. And Brother has made that so easy for us. And if anyone's wondering, I actually use a mouse when I'm using the machine. So if you see my cursor, it's because I have a wired mouse plugged in. So
Tina, when you somebody did that recently, and I was like, "What is going on there?" I forgot that you can use a mouse. So thanks for doing that on the 10 needle. I didn't even realize that either.
Yeah, so it's really fun and easy. So I'm just going to come and pull up a design that's on the machine, and there's a really cute one. I'm going to do a little baby burp cloth in here. So in this first design category, we'll just scroll down a little bit here until I find the design I'm after. Let's see where I am. Here we go. It's really cute. It's got a little bunny and a squirrel. It's super cute. So what I want to do is I want to add some stipple around this design. So I've got it set. Now I'm going to use the big hoop on this machine, and so it's wider than it is tall. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate my design so that's in this orientation for us. And then this is one of my very favorite things. So literally to make this a quilting design, you see I have an icon here that looks like stippling. I'll click on this icon. Now, the first thing that's really important is you need to make sure that you tell the machine the size hoop that you're planning on using. And right now you see I have the Echo Quilting selected. I am planning on using this 14 by 7 7/8 inch hoop. If I were using a different hoop size, I would definitely want to change that here. And it's really simple. We can just use the arrows and toggle over to whatever hoop size you're planning on using. And of course that makes sense because it needs to know the space that we're filling with those quilting stitches. And so here it is with Echo Quilting. And you know, Echo Quilting has gotten so popular in the last couple of years. Once you're in here, you see it did all that heavy lifting for you, but you can make some adjustments while we're in here. So this first one, the distance, would be if you wanted to have a little bit of space around the design before the quilting stitches would start. And so, you know, I'll just add a little bit of space, and it'll take a couple seconds here, and it's going to recalculate for us. And then you'll see that Echo Quilting coming back in with a little bit more space around the design. You can also modify the space between the Echo rows, and that would be the spacing here. So maybe I'm going to take that up pretty far here and then let it recalculate. And the other thing that's really fun about this is I don't have to remember specific numbers, or, you know, I don't have to do things in a particular order. I can just basically try something out, and it'll basically show me what it's going to look like directly on the screen. Isn't that easy? So cute. If instead you wanted to use a stipple stitch, you just basically click right over here, and then this time it's going to fill it with stipple stitches. And again, I have those same opportunities here to change the amount of space around my design and to change the spacing, loosen up my stipple design. And just that easily I can bring it in. Now, I did this on a baby diaper, so I'm just going to change the thread color. And if you're not familiar with that, you just you go to the change thread color icon, and I'll just scroll down here to my stipple stitch here, and I'll pick a lighter color so it'll blend in here, and it updates it directly on the screen. So it's just super easy. You can't really make any kind of mistakes using it. And I really enjoy the features where it updates for you real time. Isn't that fun?
Oh, you know, Tina, that where you were changing how far the echoing was going around the design, I think a lot of people didn't realize that they could do that, and that made such a difference. So depending on the project you're working on. Now, we saw somebody recently that was on the show, well, Jerry, and his echoing was beautiful. He did it by hand. I was thinking, oh my gosh, now this is awesome. Wow. Good look. And it's quick and easy to do. And I still can't believe how quickly you changed it from echo to stippling. I think that's really an awesome thing as well.
Yeah, it's really incredible. Now, the other thing, I just want to show one other example here using the same technique. And, you know, a lot of us are making banners, whether it's welcome or home or whatever we might want to say. And our machines have the beautiful decorative fonts on here. So let's say I want to make a banner. Maybe I want to put home on here. So I'm just going to spell it out really quickly. Now I'm picking the first letter. It's too big because I want all 4 letters to fit in that hoop. And so I've got to make it smaller because I can only fit 3 letters in it this size. So resizing, again, is super simple. I go to my size icon, and you see I have 2 choices here. The first one would be a proportional resizing, and it allows me to change my design size 10 to 20%. I actually want to change it more dramatically, so I would use the second one here, which is stitch recalculation. So what this one is going to do is it's going to add or delete stitches from the design as I make it larger and smaller, so it still has that same density and same beauty regardless of the size I pick. And it gives me a lot more flexibility. I can change the size between 60 and 200%, so I have a lot more flexibility here. So I'm going to change this. It is going to prompt me that it's going to start at its original size again, and now I'm just going to proportionally decrease it in size. And I'm going to go here, all right, and then I'm going to move it over so I can accommodate my other letters. And then basically we'll just repeat this. I'm going to add a letter now, so I go to the add icon. I go back to my decorative fonts. I pick my next letter. Bring this one in. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to resize it with stitch recalculation and bring it down here. And I'm reducing the size to the smallest I can make it. And I don't know if you can hear it, but the machine makes a knocking noise for me, and that tells me I have it at the minimum size. We'll just continue to add. Aren't you guys glad I didn't decide to put something longer in here?
Why don't we spell your last name, Tina?
Well, do we have 45 minutes or so? That'd be great. All right, so we'll just move this guy over really quickly. But I mean, these banners are so popular, and we've got all the designs that we need on board these machines to do it really quickly and really easily. So I'm on my last letter here. You guys probably could resize it for me now. So we'll go ahead and resize this guy. And I want to show you a couple of things. The reason I wanted to do this one is we have 4 different designs on the screen right now, okay? And you might have noticed that I've been moving my letters with the move position keys. And the reason I chose to do that is it keeps them vertically centered. You notice they're all on that same vertical level here. I could move it with my fingers, but then I would probably have to come in and do some aligning. So here's all my letters. That looks great. What I want to do is I'm just going to do a couple little checks here. I'm going to select everything. So I went to select and I picked the pink one, which is select all. So now I have everything selected. I'm going to go to my align button. And by the way, did you know we could do all this aligning directly on the machine? And I'm just going to make sure everything's at the same level here because I messed around with my mouse and moved some letters. And then I'm also going to use my positioning keys here and use this button in the center to center everything in the hoops. So now I have the whole thing centered. And then right now everything is still selected. So I'm going to come back in and add quilting stitches with the same icon we used a minute ago. So that was great. It added everything around all of the letters. Now, just so you know, if I take the stipple out, and this time I'm going to go back in and I'm only going to select one letter. So let's say that we pick the H, right? I only have one letter selected. When I go to quilting this time, it's going to act like none of the rest of the letters are there. And so whenever you have multiple designs on the screen, do go in and do the select all function first before you add the stippling or the quilting stitches. But it's super easy, super quick to do, a really fun technique.
That is so cute. So, I know a few questions that some people, I can read their minds, and plus we're commenting in the comments anyways, but inside that home where you have the stippling on the outside, is it possible to put stippling on the inside of that O as well, or no?
On this particular machine, you could, in the My Design Center, go in and trace around the inside of the O, and then it would fill it in. It looks like it picked it up here because, again, it's underneath all the letters. But this machine doesn't create an inside stamp, and so you have to go into the Design Center. But then it would be a quick, just use a curved line and trace around the letter, and then you could have the fill inside of that as well.
That makes sense. And that is such a cool thing that you can still, everything that you just showed, you can make the stippling tighter or looser or add that echo just to that. And that was that fast and easy. I think, and I will ask everyone watching, my favorite part or my favorite feature out of all of that was to be able to click two buttons to line it up in line and line it up in the center. That was two buttons. That's it. Usually, remember in the old days, it was like, oh, it took forever. That took like literally 2 seconds.
I know, it is. These machines are so smart and so, they're so powerful. So let me show you one other way to use quilting stitches around a design. So I'm just going to pull up another design here. We'll come in here, and there's beautiful, I'll probably get my flower wrong. I think it's a peony. It looks like a peony to me. And I'm going to resize it. And the reason I'm resizing this one is just to make sure that I have enough room for my quilting stitches around my design. So I'm just going to knock this down to a smaller size. That looks great. Okay. Now this time, rather than using a stipple or an echo, what I want to do is use one of the beautiful decorative fills that we have on the machine. And so to do that, I'm going to basically draw a bubble, if you would, around it by using my stamp key. It's the one that looks like a flower. So we'll click on here, and you can see it's already suggesting where it's going to draw the lines. You can adjust and create some space around your design, which typically I like to do. And here's a good example. See that little area? I don't want it to try and put a fill in that teeny tiny little area there. So I'm just going to bump this out until I can see those internal spaces fill in here. And that looks pretty good to me, right like that. So my options here are to cancel. That would be if I didn't want to move forward, or memory, which is what I want to do. And it tells me that it's saving it in the Design Center, and that's great. So now I'll go to Add because I want to add that decorative fill. So I'll go to my Add button, and rather than pulling something from the Design category, I'm going to go to the Design Center here. And the first thing I like to do when I come in here is go to my Shapes category and pull up the hoop size that I'm using. So again, 14 by 7 at 7 is what I plan to use here. And then I'm going to go back into the Shapes icon one more time. And you see I have lots of categories. So here's some closed shape. I've got some more shapes in here, some more decorative features. But when I create a stamp, it's that same icon that looks like a flower. So we'll come in here. And the last thing I did is going to be first in my list. So there's the flower design I just did. And it's now in here. Now I don't want it to stitch. The default is a satin stitch. So I'm going to come in here and pick no sew because I don't want it to sew. And then with my flood fill, I'll just click on that line and that'll assign a no sew to it. Now what I want to do is this area around it, I want to fill with a fill. So I'll go to this is my fill area down at the bottom. I'll go to settings. Now this would be a regular, fill design, solid fill, all stitches. This would be stippling, so I can also access stippling here. And then my decorative fills are in this icon right here. And so you'll get here, you have more than one choice. That's why it says select. So when we come in here, we can see we have all kinds of beautiful fills available to us that we can use. Lots and lots of pretty things in here. I actually really, really enjoy this one. I went a little bit too far here. This is one of my favorite ones, the feathering fill number 34. So I'll select that, and then I'll pick a color. It doesn't have to be my thread color. I want to be able to see it on the screen. So I'm going to pick a little bit darker color than I would probably pick for thread, just so you guys can see it. And again, I'm going to use my flood fill, and I'm going to click in the area between my hoop and the stamp outline that I created. And so you can see in just a single click, it's filled all of that area with that feathering fill. And you'll notice at the bottom here, I have an option called Next. So what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to come in here, and if I want to modify this fill, so I have lots of fills on the machine already, but I have the ability to modify them. So I could make the fill size larger or smaller. I would probably, for this one, I'd make it a little bit bigger, loosen it up a little bit. So there I've changed the size, and it'll recalculate for me, and I can see it immediately. That looks terrific. This one here would be changing the angle. This one's very curvy, if you would, and so changing the angle is not going to be as visually obvious. This one would create a run stitch border, so if I wanted a run stitch defining that area, I could turn this on instead of off. I'll probably leave it. I also have the ability to come in here with random shift and distort it. We'll just kind of play with this for a minute. And really, all of these little adjustments allow you to take the fills on the machine and create so many different variations. And then the last, this position offset allows you to move the fill up and down and left to right. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then my last option is, historically our machines did the triple stitch. Now we have the ability to do a single stitch. And so I'm going to change that to the single stitch option here and hit OK. And once that finishes calculating, I'm actually ready to go. So I would hit set. And it gives me a message telling me I'm leaving the design center. It basically is going to change it into stitches for me now. So if that's what I want it to do, I'll say OK. And look, it brings it in right behind my design and all around it. Isn't that beautiful? So
that's absolutely gorgeous. That's absolutely gorgeous. That outline that you have there almost looks like embroidery in itself, which it is, but it's amazing that you can use that as a fill.
Isn't that incredible? Yeah, I really like that. So let's look at some samples. We've talked about the machine a little bit. Let's do a little show and tell here.
Oh,
so
we love that.
Here's an example with that decorative font. This is, let's see, I'll probably have to scroll it for you to see that it says welcome all the way through. And the letters are in here, and you can see there's a stipple pattern around it. And then later on, we'll talk about the sashing that's on the machine. But there's a sashing border that's been added all the way around this. And again, super easy. The machine walks you through all the steps. Really, 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 really fun and quick and easy to do.
That is beautiful. Hey, before you move on, Tina, will you hold that up just a little bit? I want to see what fill you used with around the welcome. Which one did you pick?
I actually used the stipple. I don't think you can see the fabric with the lighting here, but it's one of the Essex sparkle linens, and so it's got a little bit of a metallic glint to it. And that stipple stitch around it just really was perfect for it.
Oh my gosh, it blends in, but it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's really, and I used the camera. Obviously, the whole word wouldn't fit in a single hooping, so I had to hoop it 3 different times, and I just used the camera on board to align my lettering between hoopings. I mean, so easy.
And that's the same lettering that you had showed earlier. You just changed the colors on it.
Correct. Yep, correct.
So easy to do. A whole different version of something that's already built in the machine. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
And here's that little burp cloth example. So again, there's that adorable little design with those little animals. I just love that. And the stipple around it. Just a really cute gift for someone with a new baby.
Oh, that's so cute.
Here's another example. This is one of the designs that's on the 10 needle machine, the big butterfly. It's half. I've actually brought this one into software and doubled it, so you get the whole butterfly. And you can see here I put the outline around it, and then I used one of the decorative fills around it. Isn't that beautiful? The metallic thread is stunning.
Okay, you got to leave that butterfly because that is like amazing. So, did you say use metallic thread on that?
Yeah, it's all metallic thread, and I ran it through the 10 needle. I didn't have, if I needed to adjust any settings on my needle, I could, but super easy peasy. And it stitched out in a little bit over an hour. It was incredible.
Absolutely gorgeous. So she's using Brother metallic thread. I know you're going to ask, what brand do you like? Of course we like Brother, but it's so soft to the touch. What stabilizer did you use, or did you just use the batting and the fabric?
No, I actually used no-show mesh on the back of it, and then the batting underneath, because sometimes I found that some of the batting has some stretch to it and it creates some pucker, and by putting the mesh cutaway stabilizer underneath, it keeps that from happening.
Absolutely beautiful. Oh, gorgeous.
And then here's the peonies again. And you can, I don't know if you can see that, yeah, the decorative fill, it's a floral fill all around it. And here I just went in and changed it into a monochromatic color scheme because I thought it really popped in that single color.
Okay, that really does pop in one color because I've seen that design before and I was thinking I would love to find a place for it, maybe on a pillowcase or something. But when you do that all in just the black with a neutral background, that is so rich. I could see that on a jacket. I could see that on so many things. That is just beautiful.
Yeah, it really is a pretty, very pretty design. You could even do one of, the adult coloring exercises we like to do sometimes with our fabric pens. You could do that on this wall.
Absolutely beautiful. Oh my gosh, gorgeous.
All right, so let's see what else we can do over here. What do you think?
There's more. I'm so excited. That was already plenty, but I cannot wait to see what else you have. You're so creative.
Oh man. All right, so you do have, I didn't talk specifically about it, but you've got a bunch of really pretty designs that are on this machine. So we'll come into the icon here, and you'll notice right over here it looks like a quilting design, and sure enough there are quilting patterns right in here. So we got lots of beautiful things you can see in a rectangular orientation. You've got square orientations. You've got all kinds of beautiful patterns on here. Whoops. The first one I want to pick is this one, which looks like a quarter of a block, right? But it's such a pretty design. So I'm going to pull it in here, and then what I want to do is I want to double it so it fills up my entire hoop. You'll notice here in the sizing, it's a little bit too big for 2 repeats to fit in my hoop. It would be a little bit over 15 inches wide here. So the first thing I'm going to do, I bet you already know what I'm going to say, is I'm going to go into the size, and I'm going to choose stitch recalculation here because I'm not exactly sure what percentage smaller I'm going to make it. I'm just going to resize it so I know I can get 2 repeats in my hoop. So that I know this one, oh, I got to go one more. My math skills are off this morning. All right, so now I can get 2 in here. Again, I'm just going to slide it over to this half of my hoop. All right, and hit OK. And then to duplicate it, I just come in here and have a duplicate button right here. So now I made a copy, and you can see it's offset a little, so you never are confused about whether you made a copy. I need to rotate it, flip it if you would. So I'm going to hit my rotate button, and we're going to flip it. Oops, pick the wrong. Here we go. We'll just flip it a few times to get it in the way I want it. And then I'm just going to slide it over to the other half of the hoop here. And then visually, I'm just going to work with it just a little. Whoops. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go into my select all because it's so easy to do my alignment. And then I'm going to align the bottoms of these 2. And look at that. It's perfect. I'm also going to go ahead and center it in my hoop.
And there we go again. It's those 2 really lucky magic buttons. Align, center.
It's so easy. I mean, I agree with you. And back in the day when you take 5 minutes and you get one perfect and then you touch the other one and mess it up and have to start over again. This is super easy. So now I have basically half of the block. It'll stitch out at a 13.6-inch block overall. So I'll stitch the first half and then I'll rehoop and align with the camera to get the rest of the block. And for those of you who have the PE Design 11 software, you could also bring this pattern into software and do the full 14-inch block and tell the tell the software you're planning on using that 14 by 14 inch hoop, and it automatically puts a split and alignment routine in there for you too, which is just incredible. But as you can see, I mean, it was pretty just by itself, and I'll show you it stitched out in the full block in a minute, but it just makes for a beautiful, beautiful quilt. And I don't know about you, but I love the ability now to make my blocks 14 by 14. I don't know. I think I'm one of those people that bigger just has a little bit more wow factor, and I really, really do appreciate that. So I'll show you this one stitched out in just a minute. But wasn't that easy? I mean, super easy.
Very easy.
The other thing that you can do is you've got some designs in here, and I'll show you a bag in a minute that I made. So we're going to come in here, and it's not in the quilting design category, but check this one out, the third one over, how pretty that is. So there's that block I just made, 14 inches. It's one of the elements in here, but you have 6 different little quilt blocks and a border print in here. So I used that for my bag. And then what I also did is I needed some custom quilting fabric. So, and basically this bag is for my quilting rollers. So I came in here to my fonts, and I picked one. I'm not really sure which one I picked, but there's so many pretty ones in here. Let's take, ooh, look at this one. I love that. So I'm just going to put something really simple, hopefully. I'm going to put Let's Quilt. So there's my letters. To get my punctuation marks, I'll just pop in here, and then I'll go back and grab my letters, and then here's my space. All right, and then we'll finish spelling out the word really quickly here. All right, so Let's Quilt. Now, if I want to, while I'm here, you'll notice I have a choice here whether if I'm going to make changes, a single letter or all the letters. If I were going to change anything, I'd probably change everything together. I can come down here and I can modify the size if I wanted to, but I think large would be better. I could arc my text if I wanted to using the array, right, and flatten the arcs. You've got all kinds of fun things that you can do in here. I can change the spacing really easily between my letters. I can move them further apart, or I can scooch them closer together. So, I mean, Brother really does make working with lettering super, super easy. So let's say I'm done here, and I'll choose Set. So now I brought it in as a design. What I want to do is I want to use one of those beautiful decorative fills around my lettering. So I'm going to come into my stamp key here, and I'm going to create, again, that balloon or the bubble around my letters, just so what I don't want to do is, can you see if I leave the spacing where it is now, it's going to try and put fills in some of those teeny tiny areas, which is not what I want. So as I'm taking a space, all I'm trying to do is eliminate any really small internal areas so that my fill won't have to be interrupted while it's stitching out. So I'm just going to make it a teeny bit bigger.
Tina, this is such a great tutorial, because I only think, I mean, I guess personally, I always think of like the big letters like you did at the beginning where you're adding things around, but this is so easy. This is just lettering built into the machine. You can make a little sign and add that outline. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's really easy. And then just like last time, we'll save the outline to the memory. And now I'm add my decorative fill. I go to Add. I'll come into the Design Center. And like before, I'll go to my shapes icon. The first thing I'll do is I'll pick my hoop size, so it knows how big of an area to fill. And then I'll go back into that same one, and I'll grab the outline that I just made here. All right, and I'll change that to a no-sew line. And of course, you don't have to. If you wanted it to stitch out as a satin stitch, you could certainly do that, but that's not the look I'm going for. And then I'll just come in here. And let's pick a different fill this time. Let's see, what would be fun? So many options, right? Ooh, this one's pretty. And let me pick a color. Cool. Yeah, I think you'll be able to see the red one here. And so just go to the bucket and then click in this area, and it automatically puts the fill in. Isn't that pretty? I mean, it's so simple. You don't have to do any math or anything complicated. And then if I wanted, yeah, and if I wanted to make adjustments on the next page, I could certainly do that. I actually kind of like it just the way it is, so I could go to Set. It's now turned it into stitches, and now I have something that I'm ready to stitch. I mean, just so simple.
Okay, so your screen right there, I'm looking at that because I have actually not tried that fill stitch. I've seen it before, and it looks really cool. But on your screen, it looks so much different than in the little box. once you add it to the whole quilt.
It has so much visual interest to it. All those circles that are overlapping each other. It's beautiful. I agree.
Oh my gosh, I love this. I know that somebody has probably rolled in a little bit later. Don't worry, this is one of the best tutorials ever, and you're going to want to save this if you're on Facebook. Save it to your Facebook page, and then you can go back and watch it anytime. And if you're on YouTube, just subscribe to Brother Sews or Brother Crafting, and you can go back and watch it as well. So, all right, keep going, Tina. This is awesome.
All right, so let's go over and look at some samples because, it's fun to do it. But look at that. That is a huge, well, I have big hands anyway, but that is a huge block. And look how much visual interest you have with just this is just 4 repeats of that block, but it's almost 4 feet by 4 feet by the time you add the sashing and the borders and everything to it. Isn't that pretty?
That is absolutely beautiful. Did you use metallic thread there as well? Because that is so striking.
I didn't, but I was kind of strategic. I knew I was going to use a black for the background, so I picked a really bright poppy yellow and a lime green. And I repeated those bright colors here on the 2-color sashing border just to kind of tie it together. But
that's gorgeous.
I love it. And the ability to do 14-inch blocks is just amazing. Here's another one. This is another one of the blocks that's in that same category. And when you pull it up, you'll only see 1/4 of it. So you'll see this part here. But just like I did, you can do that second repeat, and then you can rehoop it and do the other side. And again, these are right at 14-inch blocks. Beautiful. Now this time I used a single color sashing border around it because I thought it would be really nice. And this is one of my favorite color combinations, the red and the aqua and the black.
Again, another striking piece. I love your color combinations.
Isn't that pretty? I really, really like. Oh, by the way, before I take this away, people ask me all the time, they worry about the back of their quilts not looking great. But look, I didn't do anything special. I used regular white bobbin thread throughout the whole back. I think the back is really pretty too.
Okay, so the back looks as good as the front. You've got, I actually thought you opened a whole new quilt. I had to put my glasses on and do a double take. Whoa.
Isn't that incredible? I mean, it looks terrific. And all I did was trim off a couple of the jump stitches. But I mean, I honestly, I kind of went back and forth on which side I like the best.
Would you do me a favor and just fold the back side over the front so you can see both at the same time? That is absolutely stunning. It completely looks like 2 different quilts. So if you had that, it's absolutely reversible. Yeah,
it's incredible. Now, hand me that one back. If, I talk to people all the time at events that they're really worried about the jump stitches on the back and they worry about it. So this is the technique that I suggest to people all the time. If you're a perfectionist and you can't stand any of those jump stitches on the back, the easiest way to camouflage it is to pick a busy fabric for the back of your quilt because you can't really find it in here.
Oh, that's a good tip. That's a really good tip.
It's definitely the short way to get to where you're trying to go.
It's almost looking at the back side of the quilt is like looking at the inside of a garment. When it looks better than the front side, you're doing something right.
True. And here's that little quilting bag for my quilting rollers. Again, this is the machine or the design that's on board the machine. Here's the lettering, and then it's got the decorative fill laid in behind it with a coordinating thread color. And I just repeated the same thing on the back. But this is where I keep my quilting rollers when I'm not using them.
What a great idea. That's a cute bag, too.
Isn't that cute? Yeah, this design, I think, is beautiful. I love that. All right, so what else do you think we could get into this morning?
Oh, I think that you should definitely show just a little glimpse of that sashing.
Okay, let's do that really quickly. All right, so let's come back to the screen here. And if I'm ready to put sashing on a quilt, it's so easy. So I'm just going to go to my home button so I can refresh and get a new screen here. And your sashing borders are in the icon that looks like a border right here. And we've got beautiful options. So we've got 1 color and 2 color options here. So in the 1 color area, you can see all kinds of different design elements in here. You've got 20 different designs that you can choose, all of them super cute. And then our 2 color designs are in here. And again, you've got leaves and scrolly things, and that's a good descriptor, right? Diamonds, all kinds.
I like scrolly things. That's usually my description. I'm with you.
You know, when you're using a multi-needle, the 2-color sashing designs are super easy because you're not stopping to change threads, right? The machine's doing all that for you. So let's say we pick this particular design. So this is leaves and like holly berries, really, really pretty. So we'll choose set. And then you come in and you give it the size dimensions of what you're working on. So I have something in the quilt sashing hoop right now. So I'm just going to use the dimensions that are in here. So mine's 24 inches across. And again, you can do all the way up to 118 by 118. So that's a really big quilt. All right. And then I'll put set, and mine is 12 inches tall. I have a little baby thing that I'm doing in here. That's why it's so small. And then my border, I'm going to go ahead, and it's a little bit bigger than 3. I'm going to use the 3.0 here. And then I'm going to set. So now I've told it the size. This is so awesome. I can't hardly believe it. So once I've set all my sizes, I'll go to the next, and it tells me that I'll need 10 different pieces to do my, it doesn't mean necessarily I'll have 10 hoopings, but it's already done all the math for me. It knows how big to make the designs, how many I need to fill that whole space. At this point, if I wanted to change thread colors from the green and yellow, I could do that. Just change thread color icon here and pick whatever colors I want. That's fine. And then once I'm finished there, I just save it to the memory of the machine. So it's telling me it was saved. Now, when it's time to retrieve it, here it is. It's the last one I did. And it, just so you know, it does repeat your width and length in case you have any questions. If you're doing a whole bunch of these, you can see I've been doing lots of sashing lately, so I have several in here. So this is easy to see what I want. Now, at this point, there's 2 different ways I can pull it up. I can pull up the individual pieces manually, and I can be responsible for using the camera to get them placed, and I can size them myself. But why would I want to do that when the machine does it all for me? So I'm just going to pick the full design here, and I'll go to the set icon. And so this is so genius, I can't hardly stand it. So it's even going to tell me how to hoop my fabric. So I'm always going to start here in the upper left corner of the fabric. So it's telling me to make sure that I attach the frame this way, and I have this top corner here in the hoop. That's cool. I'm ready to go. Now it's going to tell me that I'm going to use the move keys to adjust the inside corner of the pattern, and the machine will move after pressing the OK. So I'm going to hit OK. And what you see in here is you can see that design superimposed on the fabric that I have in the hoop, okay? And these are my move buttons. And if you didn't know this, because I was a little late to the party figuring this out, these are your speed controls. So super quick, medium speed, and slow speed. I need to move it to the left quite a ways, so I'm going to leave it on super speedy right now. And we're just going to pop it over, and you can see it's moving across my fabric in the hoop. And the corner area where it's looking for placement is in red, right in that area. So I'm getting close. Now I'm going to change my speed to a lower speed so I can do a little bit more finer adjustments. All right, and then we're going to come this way a little bit. And I like to give myself a little bit of margin around there. Again, I have a bigger area than the design I picked, so I leave it off maybe 1/4 of an inch on either side. So that looks good to me. So now I'll go to next. And this time it's telling me that I'm going to use my rotate keys, and I'm going to adjust the angle of pattern. And basically, as you see in the picture, I don't want my border, my sashing border to be down on my quilt block, so I'm going to use the rotate buttons to fix that. So when we hit OK, now you can see, let's see, can you see the red line? In case you can't.
And I love how it gives you like the little descriptions of what to do. When I first did the first sashing, the same thing. It was just follow the pictures on the screen. It makes it so simple. Let me see if I can see that red line. Just barely. Right. Can you put your finger on it? And that way everybody can maybe see it. Just
right here, right down the middle of my fingernail, right there is where the red line is. Yes. Okay, so I'm fine with that. If I wanted it to get a little bit closer, right, I can adjust it anywhere from 1 degree to 1/10 of a degree. Mostly I want to make sure that my leaf is not going to be right on top of that seam, right? I don't want to have to be worrying about it going into my block. That looks great to me. So then I go to embroidery at this point, and it's telling me I need to do a thread change. I'm not going to stitch this while we're on here, but let's say I have the right colors in here and it would stitch it out. So we're going to fake the machine that I stitched it. So I'm going to come in here and pretend like I did the whole design. right. So now
Like
it's done. Yep.
magic embroidery. It's all done. All finished.
I hit the lock button and I'm gonna hit the go button. And so now it says, okay, your embroidery is finished. Okay to connect the next pattern. Sure, that's exactly what I want to do. So I'll hit the OK button. So now it knows where this one ended because it just finished stitching it. So it's going to tell me to use the camera to adjust the start point of this one with the end point of the last one. Now I'm not going to have anything on the screen here for me to match, but we're just going to pretend here for a minute. And then here, what it's asking me is the rotate keys. It knows where the start stop was, but it wants to make sure that in case I hoop crooked, which, you know, that's about every other time I hoop, I get it crooked. But this would allow me to adjust that. But again, that red line is right at the bottom of that leaf there. I don't think I need to adjust it at all. Then I go to embroidery, and all I would do is hit the start button, and I would continue that process all the way around the quilt. And literally each one of these designs, like this one, is going to take 2 minutes. Most of them are 1 to 2, 3 minutes at the most to stitch. And so it's really quick to do the stashing, even on a really large quilt with this machine. It's just amazing.
And it looks beautiful. So if somebody might be thinking, okay, every time, is it going to show you every single time you hoop? Yes, it does. It actually gives you a little icon to show you where your fabric should go. I mean, you literally look at the screen. Wouldn't you agree, Tina?
Oh, it is so perfect because I was really nervous. The first thing I did was big, right? And the last thing I wanted to do was tear out. I'm gonna put this on my face for a minute. The last thing I wanted to do was tear out like 1,012 stitches, right? So I was a little bit stressed out, but literally it tells you when to rehoop. It knows whether they can fit another repeat in the same hooping or when you need to move to the next one. And then with the quilt stashing frame, you don't even have to take the quilt out of the hoop. You just leave a magnet in and pull. So let's see if you can see behind me really quick. You can, right? So I've got that quilt stashing frame in right now. So
okay.
let's say I had finished this and it was telling me that it was time to rehoop. All I would have to do is remove the magnets on the end. All right. And then check this out. I can literally pull the next section of my quilt into place and then reset the magnets. Is that not the quickest, easiest rehooping for a quilt you've ever seen?
Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, that's quick and easy.
Super easy. So,
oh, Tina, while you're up, you can't sit down yet because I'm with everybody that's watching this. You have to show me the back of your shirt. Oh my goodness, is that gorgeous? Oh, I love that. I've seen that design. I haven't embroidered it yet. Oh my goodness. Gorgeous.
And look, there's a repeat of it on the front too. And this is a really lightweight, stretchy kind of knit shirt. And there's no puckering. It's such a cool design.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I'm like, whoa, embroidery alert.
Oh, that's funny. All right. I think we have time for maybe one more technique. What do you think?
Well, sure. Why not? You know what? I have to tell you, and I'd love to see the comments here, but since we're sitting in the comment section right now, I would love to know if you've tried the sashing because it also, on that machine, there's one with 2 colors as well, isn't there?
There is. There's,
Yeah. On the Luminaire, there is as well. And that's the one I've used where I used different colors. I did it for the holidays. So I had one with gold and one with silver. It was absolutely gorgeous. Not quite as beautiful as yours, but it worked out gorgeous. So I'd love to hear if anybody's tried that because it's a cool technique and you could do it on a lot of different things.
Yeah. All right. So let's see
what else would you like to show us today? Because this is a lot of fun.
Oh, man. Well, you know, I get a lot of questions when I'm out for people trying to do edge-to-edge quilting. Using some of the designs that are on the machine. So I thought maybe we could talk about a couple of different opportunities for edge to edge using the designs that are on board here. So the first one I have, let's say, I'll paint the picture for you. I have a fabric panel. I don't need to differentiate blocks or anything else. I really just want to fill the entire space with a fill, but I want to make sure that people aren't going to see where my joins are between my hoopings. And so this one's super easy. So you can come into the design center here. Again, you're going to want to pick the size of your hoop first because that defines your area. And I don't know about you guys, but I always use the biggest hoop that I have for my quilting projects because I like to get them done really fast. I'm not going to have any kind of stitching around my border, so I'm going to do a no-sew because I'm trying to minimize the appearance of any edges here. So I'll make sure that's a no-sew line. And then I'm going to come into my settings here. Now, a couple of tricks for you. On the decorative fills, you'll notice some of them are, what would you call them? Rectilinear or regular shapes like the circles and the grid lines here and the bricks. And those can be a little bit more challenging to align with the hoopings. And so if you want a really easy peasy quilting experience, pick one of these botanical or organic prints that has lots of curvy, curly Q kinds of things. I think in this one I use the Jacobean flowers. And because there's so much going on in the fill, it's really hard to see where the lines are in between your hoopings. And so all I would do, frankly, is come in here and fill the entire hoop with whatever fill I was going to use. Now, if I'm doing what we say in the South, a big old quilt, right, I would probably come in on the next page and I would make my fill pattern bigger. And, you know, for really big quilts, I take it all the way up to 200%, which reduces the stitch count and makes the stitching much quicker for you. And then I typically always change mine from the triple stitch to the single stitch, which we'll do over here. And I'll show you in a minute with an actual quilt. And it's really hard to see where those individual lines are, okay? Now, the other thing, the other technique that people like to do a lot is all over stippling. And, you know, stippling is forgiving in that you can't see the edges as much, which is nice. But when you're doing a whole cloth quilt, if I came in here and just filled my rectangle shape, at least in my experience, and it could be me, I'm not saying it's not me, but when I just fill the hoop with a stipple pattern, I find that I can see the joins when I go looking for them, and that's not what I'm looking for. So what I like to do in that case, I'm going to actually go back here, is let's say this is going to be my quilt. So my first one, I'm going to have edges on my fabric for these two sides. And rather than having hard lines over here, what I do is I come into my line drawing tool. And by the way, your options are here. So you draw a curved line that closes, a straight line that automatically closes. I'm going to pick my curved line here, and I'm going to make sure I have the no-sew on. And what I do is I come in here, whoops, hit the home button instead. I come in here, and rather than have a hard edge over here, I just draw myself a little squiggly line. So I'm just going to come in here and there's nothing magic about this. It's just not a straight line. I do the same thing over here. I'm going to come in.
So those of you that are looking, look really close because you can see it. So I'll have her stop for a minute just so she can focus. It's amazing that you can just draw on the screen like that as well. Super easy, but just look really close and you can see those lines. It's really faint.
Yep. And then typically I'll come back in here and I'll go with a straight line to get the other two corners. Oops. And I need to save these two before I go any further. I'm going to save these two in memory, okay, on the machine. And then I'll come in and I'll use the straight line and I'll draw the other for this particular one for these two sides, right? And then so all I'm doing here is I'm basically defining an area, and mostly I want to make sure that those lines intersect. And I'll do the same thing over here. Okay, and now that I have a closed shape drawn, I can come down here and grab my stipple pattern. I'll pick a crazy color. Oops, I have a line open here. Sorry, you're gonna have to look at the back of my head. But basically, once I join the lines here and here, I have a closed shape, and I can fill it in with a stipple. But what's really nice is when I come back in and I do it next time, so let's come out of here and say I'm doing it again, I can come in and pull the curvy lines that I drew last time out of the pocket, and I don't have to draw them again, and then they're always the same in between my hoopings, and so I have my perfect stipple fill pattern without really having to struggle at all. So if you've ever worried about being able to see the edges on your stipple projects, this is a great technique for doing that. So we're going to pop over and look at some samples really quick.
That's a great idea, by the way. A really good idea. Easy to do as well.
Yeah, well, you know me. If it's not easy, I'm not doing it, right?
Oh my goodness. I just love your colors. That looks so springy.
So now a couple of things in here. I did use that sort of Jacobean flower. So it was a detailed kind of organic, very curvy fill. I used a coordinating thread color since these are all lights. Typically you use, white or an off-white or a light gray. White was good here because it kind of disappears. And honestly, I'm looking at the front and I couldn't tell you where my joins are, but it gets even better because here's the back. Can you tell where my joins are even on the back?
Oh my word. I'm actually looking. I'm like, I know I'm going to be able to see it. I can't see it.
It's incredible. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, by pulling some of these fills, and I guess it's really an optical illusion, but your eye looks for it. But I mean, I'm telling you, if you can't find it on the back, that's a pretty awesome technique, right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I cannot see it. And the front is absolutely beautiful. Again, are you using that, what stabilizer did you use to embroider those pieces? Was it the no-show?
So I've got the no-show mesh underneath the fabric and then my batting underneath that. Yep. And honestly,
it's so
when you're
soft, like when you can look at embroidery on a screen and think one thing, but when you hold that actual quilt up, it's draping. I mean, it's beautiful.
And for this one, if you're going to put the backing fabric in the hoop too, you can actually skip the stabilizer because the backing fabric will provide that kind of extra stability that you need. So that's an option for you. Here's an example. I'm actually wondering, I think I'm going to go to the other camera. This one's big. So all right, so let's see. Can you see the lighthouse panel here?
That looks like where I am right now. Ludington Pierhead. That's what it looks like.
It's really pretty. So we're going to pop over to the smaller camera again. But this is an example. Again, this is one of the one color border prints that's around the edges. And then the stipple all over. And there's quite a bit of stippling in here. Again, I think you'd be hard pressed to find the joins in my stipple because I use those curved edges to join so I don't have any hard edges. Same kind of thing here on the back. I'm definitely crossing over hooping areas here, but you can't really see where the joins are. So I guess, what do they call that? A trompe-l'oeil effect?
That you can't see it. You really cannot see it at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really is easy to do edge-to-edge quilting. Just think about, again, if it's a decorative fill, choose something that's a little bit big and curvy in there, botanical, because they're kind of random by design anyway. And if it's a stipple pattern, just think about drawing those curve shapes and saving them to the memory. And when you join the two curves between hoopings, there's no straight lines to your eye can't find it.
Very easy to do. That is absolutely beautiful, by the way. Is that a famous lighthouse? Do you know?
Probably, but I don't know the name of it.
It's gorgeous. Actually, it just reminds me of where I go on the weekends. Very beautiful. So if you have questions, be sure to leave them in the comments because we'll come back later and answer them if we don't answer them right now. But these are absolutely gorgeous, Tina. And I love the idea of the curved lines. So just one thing clear. When you went to add the stippling, and we didn't go back because we were running out of time, but it was just because two lines were, the whole box was not connected. Because I know somebody is going to ask that, and I think that has happened to me so many times. All you have to do is go back in there and fill in that line.
I just had to do a little squiggly thing, but I didn't want to show you the back of my head.
Although the back of your shirt is embroidery is beautiful. So, Tina, this is absolutely amazing. I love the tip for hoop-to-hoop embroidery as well. That last one you showed, you cannot... Well, actually, the last two, well, they're all beautiful. But the last two, I was trying to see where you connected those hoops, and I could not see. If you could see it while you all are watching, I'd love to know. But I had my glasses on. I was looking really close. I did not see it.
Oh.
Absolutely gorgeous. So do you have any last minute, just a recap real quick? For anyone who popped in late, you're definitely going to want to save this show and go back and rewatch. Tina and I are in the comments. Watching what you're doing if we can answer any questions. But that was such a great tutorial, and all you need is, what did you say? Thread, fabric, batting, and some no-show mesh.
That's right. And of course, your awesome brother machine.
And the embroidery machine. But you showed this on the 10 needle, but this could easily be done on another machine as well. That's why I love that we can show so many different machines. But that's the best part of Brother, is as you go from one machine to the next, especially when you get to the upper level ones, their screens are the same, the navigation's the same. There are a few different quirks with each one, not quirks, but different things with each one that might be different on your machine, but it's relatable enough that I can watch you and I could go do that on my Luminaire right now.
Yeah, I would agree. Brother really does make it easy. So, the hardest thing I tell people is to do your first project. So, don't use your most expensive fabric. Give yourself permission to experiment a little bit. And I promise you, it's going to be great.
It's going to be great. And you know what? If it doesn't turn out like the way you wanted it to, it might turn out better. And those of you that have followed me for a long time know that my garments end up way different than how I start. And I call them design opportunities. All right. So Brother loves to see what you're working on. I put the Instagram up above. I love to see what you're working on as well. So when you post on Instagram, be sure to tag us. And you never know, Brother might share whatever you're doing on their social sites as well. Down below are a couple of websites for you. brothersews.com. If you go there, that's where you can find information about your machine. If you lost your manual, you're looking for some new accessories, your local Brother dealer, maybe you're like new to Brother, you go, where do I even go for this? And also the Brother blog for sewing and crafting is back up. So if you go to that website, scroll down to the bottom, click on one of either the Brother sewing or crafting website, and there are a ton of tutorials, a ton. And every once in a while, I'll put in one of these episodes. I think we're a little bit behind, but I'll try to drop these episodes as well, just as a good reference point if you're looking back. So thank you so much for watching, Tina. This was awesome. I think just a great tutorial. Your samples are gorgeous. I think everyone is still oohing and eyeing over, well, actually all of them, but the one with the metallic thread would have to be on my bucket list of the favorite.
Well, thanks for having me, Angela. This was really fun. I appreciate it.
This is great. All right, Tina, we'll see you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. So thank you all for watching. I know it's unusual that we're not bringing your comments up, but I am out of town and I was afraid that my signal wouldn't be good enough to actually go on video, but I'm in the comments commenting. So what's new this week? On Saturday, we have another episode of It's So Easy. I look forward to seeing you there. Have a great week. And Brother, thank you for letting us take over your page.